everyone. Today I just wanted to make a video to discuss monkeypox because right now the media is talking a lot about it. I've reviewed a lot of the comments and a lot of the YouTube videos of media reports, and there's already just tons of misinformation, conspiracy theories, all that fun stuff that we love so much circulating around. So I just wanted to talk about some aspects of this outbreak for those who are trying to make heads or tails of it and aren't sure who to trust. I will say I come at this from purely just a medical standpoint. I have no political associations, affiliations, or anything that are infused in this. So it's just literally a compilation because I'm a huge science geek. So anytime I especially enjoy learning about viruses, and so it just stimulates my brain, this topic, right? So I use my degree and my experience as a registered nurse to just evaluate different outbreaks and things that are going on and give logical advice on it, okay? So let's just talk about first, what the heck is monkeypox? It was first discovered in 1958. We saw it in colonies of research monkeys and named it monkeypox. A lot of people are like, why monkeypox? Well, that's why. We also have cowpox and chickenpox, and we tend to name pox diseases after their characteristics or the animal that it seems to be coming from. Initially we saw it in monkeys, called it monkeypox. Then we found out it really comes from rodents and things like that. We in the past have had an outbreak in the United States where 79 cases or so were reported, but those were linked to infected prairie dogs in 2003, and those prairie dogs were next to a shipment of animals from an African country in which monkeypox is known to exist in that country. And we were able to track down everybody who bought the infected guinea pigs, identify everyone that contacted them, nip it in the bud, and get it over with. So with this one of the first pieces of misinformation that's sort of half driving me insane is it is true that some of the first confirmed cases were among men who had certain identities, we'll say. Let's go ahead and just nip that in the bud. No, this isn't primarily transmitting as an STI. What happened as of this morning is they've linked a lot of those initial cases to a sauna, and the sauna was very popular amongst men who identified as homosexual, bisexual, and that sort of thing, okay? So that's who was mostly at the sauna. A sauna is a ripe environment for passing a germ. The air is very heavily laden, making it easier for droplets to hang in the air for longer. All the surfaces are moist, allowing the virus to live on surfaces and that warm moisture for a lot longer. Very ripe environment to pass a disease. So it just happened to be that most of the people that went there identified in a certain way because it was popular in that group of people. So if this had been a Baptist church, then the majority of the first people who showed up with that under those circumstances would have been Baptists. So it's merely coincidental. It's no more, it has nothing to do with that. Everyone's equally susceptible to it. This is not, it was just a coincidence in that first thing. So let's go ahead and put that out of our minds. That was just a certain source of infection. Anyone who would have gone there and done the exact same things, breathed the same air, sat on the same spot, whatever it was that passed it, could have been an attendant that worked there, caught it and passed it around even more. It's just a ripe environment to spread infection, because of the essence of a sauna itself. So let's go ahead and eliminate any sort of affiliations in that aspect. That's just a coincidence. Everyone is equally susceptible. Unfortunately, children, if someone dies from it, they're more likely to be a little child than an adult. It does have varying mortality rates. As you see, CDC, if you review all of their things, you'll see that they cite it at being about 1 to 4%. World Health Organization will cite it at being around 3 to 6%. So there are various ideas on that. And, the way this goes is it's primarily been in third world health systems. So we really don't know, with this breaking out on a wider scale, what that means in terms of anything about it, because it doesn't seem to be passing the same way as before. Before, it was large droplets. It was direct contact with a recently, infected surface or the bodily fluids of someone who was directly infected and had sores and things. The fact that we have over 140 cases in 11 different countries, in such a short period of time, would raise flags as to the infectivity of the virus. Is the spreading more easily now? What has changed? Because we've never seen this happen before. We've always been able to, whenever it's ever left Africa, we always knew the outbreak was tied to A, this particular little group of animals, or B, people got, caught it while in Africa and then traveled home, and then they were attended to, people around them given the smallpox vaccine, and, we stopped it. However, that's different this time as well. Although we do have a link between a lot of the handful of original cases in that sauna, we also have people who never went to the sauna, never contacted anyone who did. So we have multiple chains of human-to-human community transmission of unidentified origin. If we don't have all the chains of infection identified, then this is going to spread. To what extent it's going to spread will depend. If it has remained only as contagious as it was before, and somehow a lot of people just touch the same thing, or we find out they were all around the same small group of people, and we can start linking it that way, then that'll be a huge help. But we don't have that. We don't know who all is infected. It can potentially have a very long incubation period. Again, this is something that's usually like 5 to 21 days or up to 26 days that incubates. And then you start to get fever, swollen lymph nodes, headaches, body aches, those sorts of things. And then 1 to 10 days after that, you start to get sores on your face usually. You can get it on your extremities, palms of your hands, soles of your feet, genitals, things like that. And those go from just being general raised little sores to pus-filled sores that then pop. They ooze, they scab. The scabs heal up, the scabs fall off. All the symptoms resolve, and it ends. It's a couple weeks that most people are sick. So when we look at this overall, we have to understand a few things about it, in that it is irresponsible at this point in time to go out and tell everybody, oh, don't worry about it, it's not very contagious. If you have it, you don't need to self-isolate, which I actually heard in some news stories, which was rather alarming, because at this point, all we know is that it's spreading in a totally different way than we've ever seen it do so before. So we would have to have some caution in saying, oh, it's the exact same thing we've always seen. We don't know. We do not know that. Okay? All we know is we've never seen it spread like this before. It's in 11 countries, over 140 cases. New cases, are presenting as we speak. Probably someone new just showed up somewhere with it. So it's already escaped containment. So we do know that. It's escaped into 11 countries. We do know that. I'm sure there's more. If it's that widespread, then it's probably everywhere already and falling under the radar. A lot of people have probably been going to primary care doctors who are misdiagnosing chickenpox, hand, foot, and mouth, things like that, because they weren't looking for monkeypox. Now that everyone is on alert for monkeypox, I believe that the true number of those infected with monkeypox will start to come out, because until recently, no one was looking for monkeypox, especially in people that never traveled to Africa or anything like that. They wouldn't even think to look at those people for monkeypox. So now that we actually are looking for it, seek and you will find, right? We're going to find it now, and it's going to be a lot more widespread. To what extent that will be seen, we'll find that out all together. How fun, right? But at this point in time, I will let you know in the studies I've seen. I did look at a study last night where it was a small group again, which I don't really like studies with small groups. I like studies with thousands and thousands of people because then you have much better data. But we'll have to go with some initial findings of the small studies because luckily for humanity, each year there's maybe less than 9,000 cases in all of Africa, around 9,000 cases for each whole year that occur. So we're going to have to go with one of the smaller studies. Now, in that study, the mortality rate aligned pretty well with what CDC and World Health Organization are saying as overall. So remember, overall is you take every single person who had the case, and then you get the percentage of those who died, right? Who had the disease and how many died from it. And that can be a bit misleading because, as you know, with COVID, right, from everyone got a pretty good education on how this works. There's the overall mortality rate, and then you can break it down into age brackets on the mortality rate. And we found with COVID that, of course, the older you were, the more people of that age group died. So for monkeypox, we need to flip that upside down. Monkeypox is more likely to kill little children. In the study, while the overall mortality rate was under 10%, the child mortality rate of the group of children included in that study was 15 to 20%. And we will hope that on a large scale, as we're about to discover, unfortunately, we'll hope that that does not hold true, that was skewed due to small study population. When you have 300 people to study and only some of them are children, and then you have like some kind of crazy like 20% mortality rate in children, that could be right. Or it could be completely skewed because of other factors. And we have to also remember everything we know about it, we know from when it was not acting the way it's acting now and in third world healthcare systems. So it could be that the strain that's spreading now could be a totally different ballgame. It doesn't have to be the same. It is a large DNA virus. It's not an RNA like COVID. So what that means is it's less likely to have significant mutations because it is much more able to repair any damage in its DNA. So it would be more unlikely that this is mutated. But as we all know, unlikely doesn't mean impossible, and it's acting very different, so we can't make any assumptions yet. We just have to go forward with what we know. And what we know is it's spreading far and wide pretty quickly, and we're not sure why. We haven't seen any deaths yet, thank goodness. But then again, for this disease, just like with smallpox, if you're going to be in that group of the mortality rate, you're not going to get it and die the next day. You're going to get it. You're going to go through the initial few days. You're going to develop the pustules. The pustules will move on your body. As they pop, some will become infected with other germs from having big open sores. So I think part of the mortality rate has typically been due to infection in those wounds, which was the case for a lot of smallpox victims and things like that as well. So in the first world healthcare system with good antibiotics, I'm not sure how this is going to translate as far as mortality rate, nor are we sure about the mortality rate of the particular strain going around. It could be very low. Hopefully that'll be the case. Hopefully we won't see anyone die. But, again, we all know what assuming does. So at this point in time, the main points of this are we do have a vaccine. Unfortunately, we can't get it. You can't go to your primary care and say, hey, could you go ahead and give me the smallpox vaccine? That's not doable. They have to actually authorize the release of that vaccine to give to the general public, and I don't anticipate necessarily seeing that occur in time. Unfortunately, okay, I don't think people should be forced vaccinated, but I also think it should be an option for people that want to do that. And it wouldn't be a dumb idea to get everyone vaccinated for smallpox anyway. It covers monkeypox, so two birds, one stone. We have diseases out there that could potentially totally ravage us, and we have these vaccines that are tried and true and work very well. So to withhold them or not get them out or open them up early enough would be a huge error on our part. So we do have the vaccine. The virus is acting different than we've seen. It doesn't matter that they're saying, the initial coincidental group presented, because we now know what a link between a lot of those initial people were with that sauna. It was just a location that just happened to be people that identified a certain way that were the most, that went there. Hence, that's the people who got it, the people who went to the place where the contagion was spreading. So don't, apply much stock to that at this point in time. It's airborne, large droplets, surfaces, direct contact are the routes of infection we're aware of. Basically, any infectious disease, if you have relations with another human being, that's pretty much direct contact with that human being. So if they have it, you're probably going to catch it. Just like if they had the flu, or if they had COVID, or if they had chickenpox, or whatever. You get up close and personal like that, you're going to expose yourself. So obviously, there's a potential to get exposed in an STI sort of way, but not necessarily through the actual act, just because you're so close contact with that person at that time. So I would say just to not worry too much. We do have the vaccines. We're dependent on the governments to allow us to get them if we want, but they are there. This shouldn't, in theory, due to the fact that we already have vaccines, we should be able to nip it. It shouldn't do the giant 3 billion people infected, 250 million dead type scenario, because that was run just as a simulation if it was vaccine resistant. And we have no reason to believe that this strain is at all vaccine resistant. So I hope that this answers some of your questions about it, concerns about it, dispels some rumors. No, this wasn't released to interfere with the American midterm elections. They're totally unrelated. Don't make that ridiculous correlation. That's just dumb. Especially because we only have one case here, and the majority of the cases are overseas at this time, and in Canada. I seriously don't think that, that's the issue. The reason why it's being broadcast in the media so significantly is we've never seen this happen before. It is breaking news. This virus we've never seen do something like this before is suddenly doing something it's never done before. In the history of humanity, monkeypox has never done this before, not once, not ever. So in that aspect, it's newsworthy. And it's not to distract from anything. It just genuinely is a hot topic, right? It's something that's never occurred before. It's happening. It's a historical event. It's the first time in history this has ever occurred. And we will all find out together the new data on this new strain once the genetic sequencing has been completed. It's been started. It appears to be most likely the West African strain. To what difference it has from the original, that's to be discovered. But please don't let rumors and stupidity take away from the fact that this disease, when it kills, who it kills are little children. Okay? Do not make this political. Do not go into conspiracy. Keep your facts straight. Keep your mind clear. Keep your perspective focused, okay? We have a tried and true vaccine, and be a responsible adult. If you end up with this disease and have oozing sores all over yourself, please don't go out in public. That's just nasty. Who wants to, come on now. Who wants to go out in public and sit next to the person who's oozing pus everywhere? If you're oozing pus everywhere, stay home. If you have fever and swollen lymph nodes and feel like junk, whether you have monkeypox or the flu or a cold or strep throat, no one wants you around them. No one wants to get your germs. Be a decent human being and stay home and watch Netflix or something. Read a book. It wouldn't hurt your brain to read a book. You know? So please, I just urge humans to be human and to have some compassion in their heart for little kids, and, you know, just not be selfish. And if you get this, if you think you're sick, it doesn't matter like what anyone else says or does. Just find it in your own heart to be like, you know, I'm not going to go potentially kill someone's baby, because that would be wrong of me and selfish. You know, me going to McDonald's for the cheeseburger in public is not worth the life of everyone's child who's there. That's just mean and arrogant and terrible of you if you do such a thing. You know, please encourage everyone you know not to politicize this, to keep it in perspective, to, you know, be smart about it, to just be a genuine, nice, caring individual who has basic common sense. You know, if I see someone walking around covered in sores head to toe all over the place, I mean, it's not like you're going to be able to hide that you have monkeypox. Like, most likely, most people with it are going to want to hide away anyway, because they're not going to want to go out in public looking like that. But some people will. They'll feel their trip to go do this or this thing to go do that is more important than the lives of anybody else. And and that's just sad that we've reached that point where people will do those things and feel entitled to do it and just not care about anybody else. It just shows what a bad person you are in your heart if you do something like that with monkeypox, especially because it's the little children that will suffer for those actions. You know, this is not something that mostly affects adults. This is something that when it kills, it mostly kills children. So, you know, it's not going to be a huge ordeal. The death rate will be fairly similar, most likely, from everything we know and have seen with monkeypox. It'll be somewhere around what COVID is. It's just the populations will be flipped. It'll be the little ones that are the million deaths, not the elderly. If we proceed with monkeypox without separating it from COVID, and we need to separate the two. We will hope that monkeypox is never as contagious as COVID to begin with, and we will understand that the population is flipped on who dies here. Usually, historically, parents knowing that something is likely, you know, potentially to kill their child, they typically act a little different than something they think is going to, you know, hurt a grandparent. So just, you know, keep those things in mind and just be kind to each other. Just be nice people. Be smart people. Don't spread conspiracy theories. That's just dumb. This is a real virus. It really exists. It's really existed for a while. The first time a human ever got this was 52 years ago. So, you know, it is what it is. We're at a critical point in our population in which there's a whole bunch of us and we travel around real quick. So it's just logical that we're going to see a whole bunch of different diseases that are going to spread and outbreak. Just because we have just a massive number of host bodies available. The planet's crawling with viruses in animals and soils and waters. I mean, everywhere we go, there's viruses. And the more of us, the more likely that one of us is going to touch one, breathe one, ingest one, and begin spreading it to other people. It's a sheer numbers game. So people are going to be like, man, there's all these viruses all of a sudden. No, there's not. There's always been these viruses. Sometimes there are mutations that cause new viruses. New viruses leak from animals to people, but they're not like brand new on the earth. They've been around on the earth for a very long time. They just, you know, someone finally just touched something that animal touched or contacted that animal. So it's not like that's new news that there's millions, billions, trillions potentially of viruses out there. And there's more and more of us every day. And that increases the odds that one of us is going to breathe one, touch one, drink one, eat one, you know, and become infected. So this will be our norm moving forward, and it'll become more and more and more and more frequent. It's just numbers. It's not conspiracy. It's not shocking. It's not a revelation. It's expected. You know, that's just the way it is. So I will come back if there's any big new updates, changes, findings, information, developments, and we'll talk about those. But as of now, that's all we know about what's going on. It's not a lot. This is the disease that we're not 100% familiar with to begin with. Unfortunately, diseases that don't affect, rich countries typically don't get a lot of help or study or research beyond some basics. Thank goodness the smallpox vaccine does cover this, and we have a smallpox vaccine. So in those ways, it's different as well. So anyway, until next time.